Welcome to Spotlight on Everyday Heroes, where we highlight those who inspire positive change. Today we honor to feature Ramona Cuba, and her journey is nothing short of inspiring. From navigating through domestic violence, homelessness, postpartum depression, she emerged stronger and more determined than ever. Her son was the inspiration that gave her strength to start the Women's Healing House. It's a nonprofit, a safe space for women facing similar challenges. Today we discuss the transformative power of empathy, the importance of healthy boundaries, self-care, and personal growth. Ramona's story of resilience, compassion, and community impact that will surely leave you inspired to make a difference.
So when I was young, I was 16 years old, I was in a program. I was never able to finish school. I had to drop out of school. I was in an abusive relationship at 15, 16 years old, and I was then pregnant with my son. So my abuser didn't want me in school, so I had to drop out. There was a point where I was homeless with my son when I had him. And I was in this program. It was like for women who have gone through depression and stuff like that, like postpartum depression. So I was there and I didn't have anywhere to go. My mother has always struggled with alcohol and drug abuse. So that wasn't really an option for me. And I just didn't want my son to go through the same thing that I had gone through growing up. So while I was in the program, I told one of the ladies there, I said, I don't have anywhere to go with my son tonight. And they ended up calling the CYF and they talked me through it. I was nervous because I'm like, who are these people? And it was the best thing that could have happened to me. It was honestly my turning point in my life. It was when I learned to advocate for myself and for my son. And I went into foster care, and going into foster care was the best thing. My foster mom taught me how to be a mom, even though at first I was so nervous with her. I would bring my son in the car seat with me into the bathroom to take a shower, to brush my teeth, to use the toilet, anything you can think of. My son was in there with me. And one of the funniest things, I'll say like a little joke about it, that my foster mom would always say is, she's a beautiful Black woman, and she would always say, Black people don't steal babies.
I don't know if that's awesome.
And we still joke about it to this day. But I had to learn to trust her because as a child, I went through molestation, in my home. And it wasn't my mother or anything like that. But I went through that just because there was people let into my home that took advantage, right, of a child, because I was only 5 years old at that time. So the foster home, really, she got me back into school. And while I was in this school, it was a 10-month program called Youth Build. And I was the only woman there out of 30 men. And it was from the age of 16 to, I believe it was 28 or something like that. And at the end of it, we had to do a vision board. And in my vision board, I created a board for women and children to have a safe place. So at that point, I didn't really, think much about it. I was still only 16 years old, trying to learn how to be a mom. But when I started this, when I wanted to get involved in my church, this was back in 2020, right before COVID and everything started. I wanted to get involved, but I didn't see an area that really pulled at me. So as I was sitting there thinking, the vision board came back to my mind. And in that moment, I thought of, okay, let me try to start something for women who have experienced domestic violence, completely going into it blindly. That's how I started it, right? And then I just, got connected with resources, had the Soldier in the House coming out, Elizabeth Bumford, different places. And as I started working in that area more and more, I realized, I said, there's more that needs to be done. There's not enough that's not done, there's not enough that is still not being done for women. So I wanted to be part of that change. I wanted a mom and child to be fully safe. I saw that my life had changed and I had a different outcome for my life. So I wanted women and children to feel like they would have a different outcome and that they can heal and that there's a brighter future ahead of them. So that's how I started my nonprofit, which is called the Women's Healing House.
Wow, as you're telling your story, and I know you're kind of blasting through the timelines, but I'm having, like, I'm feeling the energy and feeling like everything you went through. And I can't possibly imagine what it felt like to be on the street with a child without knowing who to ask for help. But what stood out to me is that you actually asked for help. Because, and from that point, as you said, you started to advocate, you developed that voice and that strength within yourself that is always within us, right? It's just being able to tap into that. So, advancing through your journey, and, I really appreciate you sharing such a vulnerable story. We all experience lows and highs in our life, but how do you find strength, or how are you able to, I guess, what's your process of tapping into that place of strength when you feel like you need that extra lift me up?
Yeah.
Yes.
Are you referring to like in the past or like now?
In the past or now? Like, do you have any practices that you use, or maybe people that you call, or what is your go-to?
Yeah. So my biggest thing, especially in the past, my son was my motivation. Like seeing him, like it was like life-changing for me, because it brought me back to how I didn't grow up having my mother, and how I wanted my son to have an active mother who didn't allow him to go through hurts and pains like I did. So like that was my biggest motivation. And even at that time, I had an opportunity to still be with my family. And I remember I told this wife, I said, no, like I refuse to go back. And it's nothing against my family. I love them. I believe they did the best they could at that time, but I just could not raise my child in the same way that I was raised. And I believed that truly, even though I didn't know what it would look like. And even now, going forward, I have 4 children and I have a daughter. When I had my daughter, that was hard. That was really hard. Like seeing her, changing her, like I'm like, how can someone harm a little girl? How can someone do that, So protecting them is honestly what guides me every single day, is making sure that my children are good, working hard so that they don't have to like grow up. I grew up in really low poverty, and I try to work every day just to make sure that my children are good. And it doesn't mean like financially is only how you provide for your children, but I just want them to see like, I'm almost done with school. I have 4 children. I finish in 4 weeks, right? And I'm like, no matter what, like you can still push through whatever it is, and that's what I'm trying to teach my children. And I believe I have instilled that in them because we have conversations about it. So they're my strength, and, like it's in us. We just have to like pull it out of us sometimes and think of what is something that's going to push you.
Right. And then I think the fact that you had that lady that you lived with, right? Someone that you can actually call on, or she would be there for you. And she also helped you that, even though you weren't brought up or raised with the necessary comforting elements as a child, right? You didn't feel safe, you didn't feel secure, but she was able to show you and create what that's supposed to look like so you can replicate it for your children. So what's the importance of, did you ever have, so I would consider her kind of your mentor,
yes,
if you will, right? Did you, what's the importance, or what role mentors played in your life? If you ever had any other folks that helped you advance in your career or helping with any other things in life?
Yeah. So I would say mentors play a huge role, because sometimes they see in you what you don't see in yourself. And I let me rephrase that. Not sometimes. Most of the time, they see in you what you still have not seen in yourself. And I believe a good mentor like I've had is someone who can bring out the best of you, that can show you your weaknesses that are actually strengths. The ones that you think are weaknesses are your strengths, and that's why even for me, like I want to launch a mentorship program for women, because I believe sometimes women need someone who's going to show them the best that's already in them. So mentors play a huge role. And I think it's such an important role that a lot of people need, whether it's children or adults, no matter what. Like mentors are great. Someone you can call on and say, hey, I'm going through this. Can you just help me through my thoughts? Like, or even navigating through life. I remember when I was going to go back to college and I called my foster mom and I'm like, should I go? Like, what should I do? And then I started looking into it more, and it was on organizational leadership and change. And I'm like, this falls right in line with what I'm already trying to do. So mentors are everything, honestly.
Wow. Yeah, no, I mean, I agree. I think it's all about empowering others, and you're doing such a great job by creating the programming within the organization. So can you tell me more about what kind of services do you guys offer, and what kind of changes you see with folks that are just starting and then folks that are graduating?
Yeah, so what we offer is for domestic violence victims and for women who have gone through sexual assault. Whether it's in the past or currently still going through it, we help them no matter where they are in their journey of life. We usually started off with 10-week programs, which is really cool. These programs are like really designed to like help you learn what domestic violence is. So it's big on education. That's the first part of it. We educate them on domestic violence, on sexual assault. Then we start going into their healing process. So we also start teaching them like healthy boundaries, what that should look like, self-care, how to love yourself, how to forgive yourself, because sometimes we hold it on ourselves what others have done to us as well. And even just creating a path forward. That's something we just incorporate a little bit of everything. When I put this program together, it was more of, I thought of what would have helped me if I came across this service, what would have helped me? And obviously it's also changed based on the women that I have helped throughout my time since 2020. What I saw was some changes that they needed. And so we have that 10-week program, launching a mentorship program, which is going to be, instead of it being traditional mentoring one-on-one, it's going to be mentoring groups, where what I saw with the 10-week programs was that women really love being around each other. So instead of doing support groups by itself, I figured let's do mentor groups where you're kind of incorporating mentoring and support groups into one. So that's kind of how I thought about that process. So I'm really excited for that. Some of my women are excited for it once I launch it. And then the last thing we have been doing is relationship building dinners. So during the 10-week programs, I would incorporate having food for them. And we would sit on a table and talk together and start creating like building trust within each other. I remember there was one woman in particular who really sticks out to me, because she came into it and she was like looking at everyone completely quiet the first couple weeks. And then by the third week, she was like talking to everyone. And I'm like, wow, this is amazing. You know, you start creating a family within them. So it's awesome.
Yeah, it sounds like you're able to see the difference in folks as they progress through the journey. But what's most important, and I can totally see your face light up about this, you are supercharged, super enthusiastic about what you do. So I'm sure there's, hardships setting the program, finding the staff, and going through the challenges that a woman can experience during the path and transformation. Of course, it's rewarding at the end, but I think you can, going through everything yourself, you can empathize with those folks on a very deep level and kind of relive your past again, and also maybe continue to heal yourself from within through the stories of those women that you're helping.
Oh, yeah. And sometimes you hear the stories and you can't help but like your tears start coming down, and it's like, wow, because you really feel their pain. So yeah, that's another part of it, as well as empathizing with them and knowing what they have felt and what they're feeling.
Yeah. And it's very interesting how you said the program offers a lot of different things. And one thing that stood out to me is healthy boundaries. I feel like thankfully, I didn't have to go through any of the stuff that you and women that you're helping have experienced, but healthy boundaries is something that I had to learn myself, because I think those things that you listed, the list of the names of the sessions that you're teaching or offering, it's like some of the things that we should be taught as women. It doesn't matter of the gender. I think we should have been taught that in school or something, right? Those are the basic survival kind of type of skills, right?
Definitely, I agree. And sometimes when you grow up, there's some women who didn't grow up knowing what are healthy boundaries. So when you start speaking to them about it, like, oh, really? Okay.
I didn't know I could do it that way.
Even some are like, wow, you know what? This is a good reminder that this is how healthy relationships, healthy boundaries should look like, and what, even going into creating a path forward, what creating a path forward looks like. So yeah, sometimes it's just like those little things help, like even educational wise, right? Like I feel like my program is designed to help them, but also to educate them.
Yeah. And what about, so after the graduation, how can you ensure that you said the keyword reminder, right? Because, I know all those things, I've read about them, but, as my life goes, I get busy, I forget what my healthy boundaries are, right? How do you stay consistent with, reminding them about what they learned, or making sure that they continue through with healthy boundaries and other things? And so high school.
Yeah, I think that with that is what's going to help keep them reminded is the mentoring groups, is being able to get together, talk about, hey, how has life been? Especially since you last graduated, what's been going on, and just having like those conversations. So I think that that's my first, I guess, like my programs are designed in a way that it's phase 1, which is the relationship building dinners with the 10-week program. And then phase 2 is the mentoring groups. And that's that's almost like their time to like really work on themselves, because you can't just fully work on yourself in 10 weeks. You need longer than that. So yeah, I would say that would be it. Like the groups that we are creating for them.
Yeah, I love that there is a continuity, because as you said, it's really, really important. And the fact that you're surrounding women by women, because we're cross-pollinate, right? Being surrounded by like-minded women, we can relate on so many different levels, because everyone went through, in your group particularly, everyone went through the same traumatic past. So that's a common denominator for everyone. And then everyone's advancing, learning new things, so they're excited about change in their life. And now, how do you recruit for your program? Is it voluntarily, or are you working with maybe therapists or some organization where those women come to?
Yeah, so far what it's been is through social media, people posting, and I think that that's very important. I think that social media right now, it's a big platform for marketing, right? And even though I'm not trying to market like what I'm doing, it's still a way of getting the word out. So when someone shares or likes or, just recommends, like, oh, I saw this online, let me actually tell my friend about it. And actually that's how it came about. It's been more of word of mouth. I would love, I've met with other nonprofits and collaborating in different ways. So I see a bigger picture of this. I see myself collaborating with other nonprofits in different ways, in ways that I can't help them, that they help them, or in ways that they can't help them, then we can help them. So it's all one big community. That's what I see, and that's my vision for this organization, is to work together.
Yeah, so those that are watching, you guys see how important the services that Ramona is providing with her organization. When you finish watching this, not now, but when you finish watching this episode, make sure you share, because there's someone out there who is looking for those services. And obviously you can see that Ramona is doing this full-heartedly. So please share, just post it on your page so folks can get those services. There's a lot of people that are in a silo out there, not knowing where to go, who to talk to. Ramona and her organization is openly taking in new folks, sharing those services to those that are really, really needed. So please, please, please share.
Yes, thank you. And we're always looking for volunteers.
Oh, that's perfect. Okay, volunteers. So volunteers.
Yeah, as a new nonprofit that's just trying to get, their legs warmed up, it's one of the biggest things is honestly volunteers, because they're able to make a difference also in the women's life. There's people who have come to me and said, hey, like, I want to help women, like, I really have a heart for it. So then it's like we can discover what areas they can help out in, whether it's mentoring the women or creating that support one-on-one. So there's many different ways that you can, get involved. Even with the children, we have the children who come with the women. So, yeah.
Oh, that's fantastic. So if they don't have a babysitter, there's no excuse, right? So everyone's welcome. Fantastic. And I know we talked about doing a vision board event.
Yes.
So I'll open for that. So we'll talk about that offline. So any type of services that folks, maybe some yoga, or what other services do you think folks can come and volunteer with?
Honestly, when you think of a woman who has gone through something traumatic, something that will help them, whether it's even working out, right? Yoga, like you mentioned, just anything that you can think of, whether it's just, meditation, coming out and being able to do something like that, anything that helps them along their journey of healing. Recently, I had someone come to me about offering self-defense courses, and that's something that I'm really trying to do, an event on self-defense. So, like little things like that sometimes you can't think of, but that you're like, oh, this would be helpful for a woman who has gone through trauma to help her heal. So yeah, that's what I think of. Think of someone fragile who just needs your help.
Yeah, and I actually heard of maybe healing arts too. Someone who can facilitate some sort of therapeutic art session, or maybe not a therapist who has some time to donate. All right, so those are all great things. So the story that you shared with us today is really, really touching from the very vulnerable, very fragile standpoint of growing up and to where you are right now. It's a long, long journey, even though you're very, very young. So obviously not something that you should have gone through, but unfortunately the circumstances were that. But you were able to change your life around, and you had options, which direction you can go. So many different options, right? You chose the path of empowerment, the path of strength, the power of conquering things, healing, right? Most importantly, path of healing. And you started a nonprofit that will help so many. Even if it helps one person, it's a big difference, right? That's moving the stone. Now, what would you say your definition of success is?
So my definition of success would be, so when I think of success, I say someone who has gone through stuff, right, but has overcame them. I don't look at success as something financial. I look at success as something that's within you. How you feel at the end of the day when you have gone to bed, right? Do you feel good about where you are in life? Do you feel like you have overcame what you have gone through? Success is really something within you. So that would be my definition of success. When I look at myself, I feel like I've overcame so much with my children. I've overcame even mistakes that I've made along my healing journey because I was not healed at a certain point. But when I look back at where I was and where I am now, I see that as success. I see that as a step forward, as doing something positive for myself. So success is positive change.
Love it. And it's interesting that you focused on your healing, so then in return you can provide it for others, because it all starts within us, as you said. And it's not a selfish, it's a selfish approach to extend, but you need to heal yourself. You need to get yourself better before you can offer anything to the world, whether it's your children, your family, whatever it is. But it all starts within. So you said it brilliantly.
Yeah. One thing I always love to say is healed people help heal people. So
I love that. I think we've went through memory lane and dived into a lot of different pockets of your journey. So is there anything else that we didn't touch upon that you think folks that may be going through some tough times, or maybe at the top of their career like you are, just need to hear, basically?
Yeah. So I would say for someone going through tough times, I would say to them is where you are today is not where you will be tomorrow, and that there is a brighter future ahead. And don't be afraid to reach out for support. Don't be afraid to ask for help. Help is sometimes what you need to move forward. You know, we're not meant to do life alone. So allow yourself to receive help. Allow yourself to be vulnerable even when it scares you. So I would say that to someone. And then for someone who's gotten through it, right, or is doing pretty good in life, don't forget about those that are not doing well. You know, like help those that need help. Support those that need the support. Because if you have it in your heart and it's tugging at you, even as you are hearing, you know, this podcast, if it's been like, wow, like I want to make a change, like take some steps to make that change, because someone will depend on you. Someone needs your support. Someone needs your help. So that's what I would say.
That's awesome. And that message is so humble, but yet is so open-hearted. You went through so much, but you chose to stay open and continue to bring that light to the world and continue to water those flowers that need that energy, need that inspiration, need that help, need that healing. So I really appreciate you, really appreciate what you do for this world, and the fact that you turn your life around and you do what you do with all the people that you're going to help. And, you know, there's no way back. It's only continue to move forward and bigger and better with more services. So there'll be your information in the notes for this podcast, so folks can reach out whether they want to volunteer, whether they want to support you financially. I know you're taking donations right now for 401.
So we just wrapped up 401 gives.
Okay.
We are still taking donations because we want to be able to expand our space to have a different room for the children. Just because it's really tight to just work with the moms and children in the same space. So yeah, we are taking donations for that.
Yeah, so please help. And of course, those donations, if you care or not, but those are tax deductible because Ramona is running nonprofit. So you'll get that letter as you did a good deed. So it's a win-win for everyone. So Ramona, thank you so much for sharing all those golden nuggets. And if you're not inspired by now, I don't know what will make you take action.
No, and thank you, Katrina. I honestly thank you from the moment I met you. Like, I'm like, you are a golden piece of... Honestly, like, you have a lot to give, and I appreciate you, having me on here. You're truly amazing. Keep doing the great work that you're doing as well.
Thank you. We all are trying to change the world one person at a time. And if it's just one word that someone takes out from this conversation today that will help make their day, that's our job is done, right?
Thanks for tuning in to Spotlight on Everyday Heroes. Did you enjoy hearing the inspiring story of our guest? Are you feeling motivated to carve out your own unique path to success? If so, be sure to hit that subscribe button so you never miss an episode. And if you want to join the conversation and share your own success story, or if you have a guest recommendation, head on over to our website at www.capitalturners.com and let us know. But remember, success is not just for the lucky few or the well-connected ones. It's all about taking action, confronting fears, and staying consistent with following your own vision of success. So keep on crafting your own path, and we'll see you on the next episode of Spotlight on Everyday Heroes.